Hello everyone, and welcome back to Dr. Sakura's Case Files. Today, we're going to have a little discussion about drug damage. You see, recently the Dark Empire Police Department raided a crack house, and from within, Officer Jenny captured 4 really drugged up individuals. As you can see from their faces, it's pretty evident that these guys are all crackheads, and they need our help. Now, how do we help them? First, we must understand the symptoms. So, today we're going to have a little discussion about the units in general, and my thoughts upon, well, their illnesses. So first things first, let's have a little discussion about Chaos Ragnar, because unlike intelligence systems, I don't play these games. I'm going to talk about the most important thing first. Now, Chaos Ragnar, incredibly stupid weapon. This thing has distant counter built in, of course, and it has an ability to negate penalties. Well, it doesn't say it negates, but it pretty much does, because any penalty that you give it will be doubled into bonuses. So yeah, it pretty much is built-in harsh command within a weapon, without the use of someone talking to them and turning it into bonuses. And it doesn't even turn into visible bonuses, it turns it into in-combat bonuses. In-combat bonuses that still currently, after 3 to 4 years, have no counters for. Now, this weapon gives me a lot of mixed feelings, because, for one thing, distant counter weapons, as a long tradition, did not have any, well, serious secondary effects tied onto them. It's only up until recently that we had these distant counter weapons that started having ridiculous effects such as this. So, think about it like this, okay? The A slot is distant counter, and the only variation we've gotten recently is one that's distant ward, and distant ward, yeah, I think, and the other one, I don't know what it's called, but a distant foil. So, the problem is that, well, those things have limitations, which I thought was kind of cool. It balances that distant ward and keep it separate from distant counter, in that, hey, you know, certain stuff like bow or ninja daggers, you can't counter them. I thought that was actually pretty cool. It's a neat little balancing factor to gain this 5 attack and 5 res. However, here, with regards to this weapon, nothing like that. You get full counter, and you have this ridiculous ability that would be absolutely crazy as an A slot. This A slot completely trumps bonus doubler in a very disgusting way, but maybe they might make a penalty doubler or something like that down the line, in which case, well then, oh man, we can build some really scary units. But as it is right now, alright, guys like the regular Ike, legendary Ike, Yoma, Camus, and Joseph Harden have this problem where their weapons only do distant counter. So maybe this may be a precedent that we might just actually get a refinery, maybe in like next year or so. Because honestly, listen, Ike has just gotten a Resplendent. What does it do? Oh, you have 2-to-1 stats. That's great. I mean, you've got stats comparable to Gen 3 units now. Congratulations, but it doesn't mean anything. Legendary Ike, in particular, feels it really bad. Alright? The only thing he does, what does he get? He get Radiant Aether. Ooh, big deal. You know, it doesn't really matter, because it's just Aether, but with 1 cooldown reduction attached to it. Honestly, we have a bit of a problem. The balance is absolutely off. So, I hope that they do refinery for it, but then, I mean, you have to also consider the other units. The other units, they don't have such luxury. So, distant counter weapons starting having a secondary effect is a very, very vile thing. But, at the least, it'll make my Ike stronger. But that's discussion for another time, when it actually becomes a thing. For now, I'm going to talk about this thing being the most disgusting thing in the universe right about now. Still, Luckily, this weapon can only apply itself if you use penalties. But we had this discussion before, a long time ago, when chills and other such things are starting to become a thing. I talked about this. I talked about how Harsh Command being carried around or being like a passive effect or something like that would be incredibly powerful. And then Idun showed up, and Idun gets 4 to all stats. It's a pretty static thing. Honestly, I think Idun's might be a little bit better, but, well, this thing, it has a potential to be very scary. Because, I mean, look, if you have a penalty of 7, this can happen. This kind of crap can happen. You instead face off with this brain damage Ike with 7 extra attack in bonus, in combat bonus, which we still don't have a counter for. Why is it that we don't have a counter for in combat stuff yet? We only have counters for visible stuff. And right now, visible stuff is in a very, very bad state. I mean, look at this. Chills and other stuff like that, which is very prevalent, attack smoke and such like that, will suddenly just turn against you because you're fighting against something like that, or Doom. Luckily though, these guys are red, so there's still some leeway, but, if they do release an A skill, a penalty doubler down the line, then there's gonna be some really harsh consequences. But luckily, like I said, these things also depend on the enemy, so you can't rely on it all the time either. For example, my Aether Rate defenses, we hardly use stuff like that. What I do is just set up things that just doesn't rely on visible stuff. I usually just stack stats and do other nonsense that are more mechanic-based rather than stat-based. But, penalties and such has its place, and we still have those stupid buildings that we use, which I might have to consider removing because, you spend all these Aether Stones on these stupid buildings, and now, instead of helping you out, they screw you over. That's actually a very, very bad thing. I don't like that. And Chaos Ragnell is one of these weapons that are just kind of destroys mechanics in a bad way. Anyway, so Chaos Ragnell is evil, and so is the character. I mean, just look at his face. I mean, he looks like someone who beats his wife. I mean, probably beats Mist, for example. Useless path of being so useless in that stupid Grima battle. No doubt that's why he became like this, and became a crackhead, and looks like he's going to beat his wife. Ugh, like father, like son. Apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Of course, well, we can help him. That is why we're here. Now, let's go and talk about the other things that he has. He has Mayhem Aether, which is the same thing as Radiant Aether. But, I mean, look at this crap, dude. Look at this crap right now. With just these two things, he has already surpassed Legendary Ike in every which way. So, I mean, what the hell is this? What good is a legendary character if he's just gonna be like... Right? You would think that the guy who recovered from drug addiction would be stronger, or maybe the drugs made him stronger. I don't know. But anyway, I hope that they buff Legendary Ike soon at some point, so that he doesn't stay completely irrelevant. The dude is just rotting away in my barracks. I have no use for him. I've been using God Emperor Beelith because the Creator's Sword is one of those weapons that are very, very hard to power creep. Anything that messes with mechanics is something that you want to invest heavily on. So, as a result, I would heavily invest on this Ike if I actually give a damn about him. He's not really on my radar all that much, for one thing, because he shares color with Julia on this banner, so it's really tough to max him out in the first place. And second, I'm just not interested. I have Ultimate Magic Bike already. Ultimate Magic Bike is incredibly powerful. And if we're talking about enemy face units, well, he's got that. And Mayhem Aether is at a kind of weird position because it costs 4, which is better to be used with Breath. And Breath, as you know it, is an enemy face skill. So, yeah. I guess we could change it up a little if we were to use Infantry Pulse. And then it'll be just like how we did it with God Emperor Beelip with his -1 cooldown, and you give him like Flashing Blade or something like that, then he'll be able to generate Aether on the offense as well when he gets hit. No, when he gets hit by an enemy counterattack. But still, it's really just the same thing as a legendary one, so it's not that scary. But here's the thing. This Ike, I don't know. I mean, this guy seems a lot enemy phased, but I think he should be built dual phase. So infantry pulse, I think, would not infantry pulse. My bad. Oh god, times pulse would be a very good C slot for him. I think that would be something that I would invest on if I were to use him as a unit. That way, Mayhem Aether will be a good player and enemy phase skill. And I will replace his A with either the Flashing Blade itself or something that gives speed. I think even we could like give him something like, oh, for example, bonus doubler, and then we can use that. But then again, panic. If panic converts it into penalties, right? I have to actually see how this weapon reacts to panic, because if it works, and I really hope it doesn't work like that, honestly, because it's really bad if it does. If I know that we've done testing before with a Doom, but I did not get a conclusive answer at the time because I don't own a Doom. If I do, I would have had a better answer. But if anyone knows this, alright? What happens if a character uses bonus doubler, or just having a bonus in general, and then they get a penalty such as that? Oh, but wait a minute, no. Idun's thing is a little different too. Idun's thing is just penalty in general. This one is penalty to stats. So, what if you get panicked, right? And your stats turns into penalties? In which case, would Chaos Ragnell actually raises those stats? Or would you still, suffer from a penalty? That could be interesting. I feel like Panic is a separate mechanic, but I think Panic also causes a debuff to happen. So that debuff is the one that's going to be raised by Chaos Ragnell instead. I know it doesn't make a lot of sense when I put it like that, but it's something that I'm a little worried about. See, if we do that, right, then running bonus doubler on him is actually the most ideal weapon, because bonus doubler is something that is absolutely scary on a distant counter character. Now, if the only counter for bonus doubler turns against you, then yeah, I would say that the title of being the strongest character would not be too far-fetched, or Mr. Brain Damage Ike here. We'll see though. We'll see what happens. The character doesn't come out in a few days, but that's one of the things I would look into checking out. I might spend 140 orbs to get him anyway, because Darting Breath aside, he has Repel. And Repel, as you know, is one of those stupid close call skills that does damage reduction, and damage reduction is incredibly stupid, and it pretty much gives off the vibe that, hey, this Ike is incredibly fast, and he has pretty decent defenses, probably, due to BST spill. So, yeah, this guy is going to be tough to kill. He's going to be very fast. So in order to defeat him, you have to ignore pretty much all the bonuses in general. I think that a character that uses Lull would be the best bet as a counter for him. Because if bonus doubler works the way that I talked about, if it works along with him getting penaltied, then yeah, that's a problem. I mean, the bonus doubler stats itself probably would be disabled, but the fact that Chaos Ragnell can make up for it is just not right. I mean, well, not the fact that I haven't figured it out yet, but it's a potential of an absolute disaster waiting to happen. Okay, so now that we've spent a great deal of time on brain damage Ike, why don't we go and move on to someone else? Now we're gonna start from, I guess, the order that IS gave us, you know. So let's go and do brain damage Corrin. So brain damage Corrin here has brutal breath, a little bit of a flashback from savage breath, but so instead of giving as many stats, it gives one less. So instead of like 6 to all stats, it gives 5 to all stats. And then it has its stats that it came attached to it. But there's a difference. In exchange for the 1 to all stats, this evil thing will inflict special cooldown -1. Of course, I mean, the number of allies have to be less than or equal to 1. But that's very, very easy to achieve. That's extremely easy to achieve. So, this thing now has guard attached to its weapon. So, if the fact that female brain damage Corrin isn't a colorless character, I would say that this thing is complete power creep. But luckily for us, colorless on Corrin means that she doesn't have any weaknesses as this one has with green units. Now, he carries a attack speed solo on him, but this attack speed solo is kind of uninspired. It's just, well, 1 extra attack and 1 speed. It's a direct power creep. Kind of hate it, but, well, you know. Stats are whatever. I worry more about mechanics, or massive stats based on these mechanics, like cast Ragdown. So for now, attack speed solo, not a big deal. Then he comes with no follow-up, which is a very scary skill. And since his B slot, hey, guess what, is not occupied, he has with guard. So now he has a really good setup for something to prevent enemy skills and such. Until we get like a guard in the seal slot, which honestly we should soon. We honestly should get it soon because it's one of these things that just should have been a seals to begin with. I mean, quick repose was one of those things that really kind of changed. It kind of shook up the game a bit when quick repose became a seal slot. And it came relatively early, so a lot of these other things I thought may end up coming, like guard, for example. But, well, we'll see. We'll see. For now, though, he has the distinct advantage that his B slot is not taken up by guard, and he can become a pretty solid, well, dual-face unit. Because he's likely to be fast, he's likely to be strong, and he's likely going to be tanky, though, thanks to all the stats and all that nonsense. But yeah, that's pretty much it about Corrin, really. I mean, in the end of the day, he's still a dragon type, and being a dragon type right now is a huge, huge liability. You don't have nearly as many like unique effects that makes you worth playing a dragon character. Yeah, I mean, you can calculate damage on range units, but it doesn't really matter all that much. It's not that big a deal. But right now, dragon is kind of like, oh hey, you know, you got a dragon slayer, you die. You just die outright. So I don't like investing on characters like that. But luckily, well, not everyone carries dragon slayers. Still, having a weakness like that is scary, and that will bring him down. Well, at the very least, you know, he's not that different compared to the other dragons that we face. So, I think he's... I struggle to say he's balanced, but he really isn't. But he isn't as bad as the others. Especially Idun. God, Idun is a huge pain in the ass. But luckily Idun also has the armor weakness, so, well, you win some, you lose some. At least it's not Chaos right now. Chaos right now. Seriously, that's so incredibly stupid. He has no weaknesses. He's not even an armor unit, so he doesn't get, like, armor weaknesses. He's infantry. Infantry. Like, what the hell, dude? Like, the infantry currently has no weaknesses. We have, what, a poison dagger. That still doesn't have a refine after, like, 4 years. Yeah, 3 to 4 years. stupid. We need something that can actually do something for infantry units, and that'll breathe some life. Well, maybe. I think there's a lot of good daggers out there, like Broadleaf Fang. But then, hey, guess what? Broadleaf Fang is gonna get your ass killed if you face off with a stupid bike with Chaos Ragnell. Ugh! I hate that weapon so much. It's such a stupid weapon, and I keep getting like deviated from it. But I mean, maybe it's not so bad. Maybe it's not going to be that bad. But the penalty in general is just a huge liability now. Well, okay, no, that's not fair. That's not fair to say. That's only for people who have Idun or that stupid Ike. But otherwise, I mean, it still has uses. Until they release some stupid skill like that bonus, the debuff doubler that I just talked about. I hope that will not happen, but now that I talked about it, if IS watch my videos, like they always do, they'll probably include it, so I'm a bad guy. Okay, anyway, so let's move on to the next target. We have brain damage Lyon. Lyon is incredibly ill, and he needs help. He has an imaginary friend in his head, and this imaginary friend, what's his face, for Mortis, wants him to go and kill people and then eat them. Now, he has this amazing weapon that, well, reduces damage from foes' attack. That's, well, I mean, if they're using bow, dagger, magic, or staff, but I mean, that's actually pretty scary. This blood tome that he has is actually something that is something out of a nightmare, honestly. If you use a ranged attacker on him, you're going to be in trouble. He's going to give you a really bad time. 50% reduction is an incredibly huge reduction. If we've learned anything from Ultimate Magic Bike. Luckily though, him being a tome user means that he automatically cannot stack it with stupid repel, but still 50% is a huge chunk. So you know, George, it's kind of like George. George has a 30% reduction, except, well, George doesn't cancel area effects. George also doesn't, give colorless advantage, and, well, he just reduced more, and it also comes with an attack bonus to it. So I mean, George is also a Gen 1 unit, and I guess George is colorless. That's really all there is to it. This stupid weapon is George's weapon, except power creep to the maximum, basically. Oh, sadness to all. And you know what? It's like for both phases as well. It's just a very disgusting weapon. It makes me sick. Everything about this thing makes me sick. All these characters. Ugh. Anyway, he comes with bonus doubler. Bonus doubler though is on a ranged unit. It's much better on someone who could distant counter or close counter or something like that, if they somehow have it included in their weapon. In general, usually weapons are the ones that have distant counter, and we don't really get close counter weapons. There's a couple examples of this, but he's not one of those. I would say that Julia or Boy would be pretty decent with bonus doubler, but even then, it's a bit of a stretch considering what they are. But anyway, if we use him, I think that's something that giving him attack would probably be really good. His base speed is kind of slow anyway, so I mean, that talk about repel earlier, let's not worry about that. That's not a big deal for him. So we just need to figure out something that gives him a good chunk of attack and have him just completely wreck the enemy. Though he can't double, so we have to give him a little bit of help. We have to give him either quick riposte or something along the lines of that in order to disrupt the enemy. I think that he should keep his null seed disrupt, because if you're gonna fight enemy staffs, you're probably gonna need something like that. That's gonna help you a lot. And then if you can just go and equip quick repulse as a seal, that'll work out for him as well. For him, he doesn't really need guard. because 50% reduction is absolutely insane. So as long as he stays away from melee units, this man will dominate the field quite handily. I mean, look at this. He has a triangle advantage to colorless as well. So he's got 2 colors already taken care of. And I mean, yeah, there's like stupid things like red bowl and such like that, but who really uses a red bowl these days? I guess we do have recent like that drug unit that Midori and the drug addict, or no, a drug supplier who probably gave him the drugs to begin with. Yeah, there's that, but I don't know if Midori is all that great as a unit, honestly. But anyway, I feel like I'm getting off tangent here, but something like that would be able to do a good chunk of damage to him. I feel like he probably doesn't have that much defense, but we'll see what happens. Right now, I think he's an attack res character with a slower speed and a good chunk of attack. So something like Quick Repose would be great for him. He otherwise does not have any means to harm the enemy. I suppose what he could also do is use the Brash Assault Desperation technique if he wants to be a player phase unit. But, well, that has its own problems as well. We'll see. But he'll have an easier time getting into Braspiration as a result, because of all that damage reduction. He's not very likely to die, even if he would get doubled or get hit by a skill, as long as the enemy's a ranged unit. So that kind of setup for him would work out. Yeah, I think Brash Assault and Desperation would work out. I still think that the Quick Repose and the Seed Disrupt would be better, though, because he seems like a better enemy face units. But something like that would be very scary if the enemy is not prepared for it. Well, we'll see what happens. Anyway, now for the final unit, we have Julia, who has absorbed tons of brain damage, became a crackhead, and completely destroys Julius in the most hilarious of ways. So now, if she's not adjacent to an ally, Dark Scripture gives her attack and res -6. And what did Julius have? Ooh, hey, attack -6. Oh, unit effect, you're doing dragons, you can do that. But now, she gets that res -6. She also gets, a guaranteed follow attack. Disgusting. Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. We're lucky that this is not combined with Blood Tome's effect. Oh man, can you imagine? That would be absolutely the most deplorable thing ever. But as you can see, we just had a little discussion about making guaranteed follow-up attacks. Now, what if this Dark Scripture guy gets a B slot of Desperation instead? Well, hey, guess what? You can turn Julia into a vicious player face unit. But luckily for us, well, in doing so, she's going to have to sacrifice Light and Dark, which, in my opinion, is an extremely powerful skill. It's just, well, it would be better served if she has a guard as a seal, because what it does is negating all these bonuses that we just had a little chat about. Like I said, lulls and stuff like that would be the best way to stop the evil forces that is Chaos Ragnar. You can't just go and beef yourself up. You can't just go and give yourself penalties, give him penalties. Right now, lulls, I think, is the path of the future. But, well, luckily for us, they don't have charts cooldown reduction. Oh yeah, that being said, the cooldown reduction from guard, Corrin's Brutal Breath, he could run a lull skill pretty handily as well. Having a freed up B slot is a very, very wonderful thing. Then, I mean, I still think that guard would become a seal slot, but Julia could also stand to benefit from other ways to utilize the seal slot. For example, let me think. I mean, there are characters out there that negates guaranteed follow-up attacks. As long as it's not no follow-up, You could, for example, stack another Brash Assault, and then you can hit the enemy twice if they somehow negate it through, I don't know, like Worry Fighter or something like that. That's one way to go about playing things. That's how I build my Nino as well, in certain situations where I need to absolutely obliterate someone. It's a fake, no follow-up, but it's there. In that way, I can negate the Worry Fighter by use of my Brash Assault, and I still have my Desperation to take characters out. That's how I use it for. That's how I use Nino for most of my adventures. Anyway, so this is a pretty disgusting tome, and the fact that it reduces attack -6 makes Julia incredibly tanky, and then you have to add light and dark, so the only thing that she needs is that guard thing. And if guard becomes a seal, she's going to be a very tough character to fight. And I think that instead of using her attack res solo, using close foil would be an absolutely scary setup for her. She's an absolutely scary character with that if she were to be able to get past the whole guard business. Then again, you know what? Maybe it's because of that we don't have guard as a seal. Honestly, there's a whole lot of reasons for it. But when guard becomes a seal, the whole meta will definitely shift in unnatural ways. Other than that, well, there's not much to discuss. Panic Smoke is whatever. So, well, I guess that's pretty much it. We discussed our little 4 crackhead characters, and I think I've spent enough time with that. So, I hope we all have a little bit of understanding of these characters and the mixed feelings I have towards them. I thank you all for watching. Until next time.